Not another Seiko Homage. Yes, sirree, Bob, it's a Seiko Homage. See what I did there? There are lots of homages to the Seiko SKX, and I've got the Heimdallr Sharkey, which I'll review and compare to my Islander diver on this episode of Adventures with Time. Yes, I've got another homage watch to review. This is the Heimdallr Sharkey SKXV 2K20. Heimdallr is a self-defined micro-brand watch company out of China. Many of their watches are described as homages. They position themselves as a watch company founded by watch enthusiasts who strive to provide quality watches at reasonable prices. Perhaps unfair, I equate them to other Chinese-based watch companies like Pagani, San Martin, and the like. I won't try to grade the quality or customer service of Heimdallr compared to the others, since I don't have sufficient experience to make any claims. However, if you have any input, by all means, please share in the comments below. Please understand that I'm not a Seiko guru. I do have a couple of Seiko watches, but I don't have a Seiko SKX. I do have the Islander ISL-08, which is another homage from the Long Island Watch Company. I'll compare it to my Islander as well as the published specs of the SKX007. And when I get to design and quality, I'll make a direct comparison between this Sharkey and my Islander. Let's get into it. Okay, folks, this is the Heimdallr Sharkey SKX V2K20, and I believe that merely means it's the version 2020 of this homage to the SKX. Warranty card, and again, this was not purchased by me. It was purchased by somebody off of eBay, but they got the official warranty card. The only other thing in here is the watch, and there it is. White dial, as you can see, day, date, bezel, bracelet. Let me do a quick check on the measurements, see how they compare to what's officially in there. It's about 42.5 millimeters wide, 13.6 thickness. Do a quick crown check. Looks like a fairly nice sized crown of 6.8. 22 millimeter lug width. Now the lug-to-lug measurement depends on where you measure it. If you just measure the case, which is hard to do, it's about 46.5. But you see this end length is a full male end length. So if you measure from there, it's just about 50 millimeters. Now it turns out those are pretty close, within a half millimeter of both the original SKX007 and my Islander ISL-08. Which is another replica or homage to the SKX. Thickness also is within a half a millimeter, and the lug-to-lug is almost the same also. The Islander is maybe a couple millimeters narrower than both the Sharkey and the original SKX. These both use the Seiko external NH36 movement, which gives you both date and day. The original SKX007 used the internal 7S26 movement. All are rated to be water resistant down to 200 meters. They use different lume formulas. These two have a sapphire crystal on the front. The original SKX had Seiko's proprietary Hardlex crystal, and they all have a 120 click unidirectional bezel. And as far as pricing, the Sharkey goes for about $150. But you order it from China, and depending on where you are, there may be customs or duty to pay. The Islander goes for $299, so just about double what the Sharkey is. And of course, the SKX007 has been discontinued, so you have to go on the aftermarket to get one of them. And as far as these two are concerned, they're very similar as far as the case and the bracelet design. Obviously, the grips on the bezel are a bit different. Obviously, the dials are different, but the bracelet is about the same. They both taper. The Islander has a thinner clasp on there, but the clasps were pretty much the same. And they both have 3 micro adjustments, but you'll notice that the Islander uses screw pins rather than the pin and collars that the Sharkey uses. Both use solid screw-down case backs with logos or designs on the back of them. The other thing to notice before I get into review of this Sharkey is that the Islander does have applied hour indices, whereas the Sharkey is a totally printed dial. So if you're looking for an SKX Homage, from a design standpoint, this is a reasonable one in that it looks fairly similar to the SKX. But I find that there are a couple of things that are disturbing me. Not having any applied markers makes it a fairly dull dial. Maybe another color of this might look better. Now, as far as quality, the bezel action is okay. There is some movement in it once it falls into place. It all lines up from the bezel to the chapter ring to the hour indices. However, one thing that was pointed out to me, which once you see it, you keep looking at it, is that although these things are all lined up together, the collection of them seem to be rotated counterclockwise. In other words, the top is in that direction, the bottom is in this direction, by about a minute's worth. And you can see that, or I hope you can see that, in that the pip up here is just to the left of the center of the bracelet, whereas the 30 down here is just to the right. So it appears that the whole mechanism of the movement, the bezel, the dial face are all rotated a little bit to the left or counterclockwise. I don't know if that's an adjustment that can be made or if it's part of the design of how the pins on the back of the faceplate or the dial plate are just misaligned with the holes in the movement holder. It's a bit upsetting once you find it and if you're a perfectionist. Bracelet, as I said, is okay. Nothing wrong with it. Milled except for this clasp, which is pressed. It's pretty nice bracelet movement. I don't think any worse or any better than what's on my Islander. But as I said, looking at that dial, it is pretty flat, sparse, which would be good if it had some applied indices. But just the printed text, everything white or black, really is kind of boring to me. And I find it hard to see where the hands are at a quick glance, especially that second hand, which you can hardly see moving. You can see the opposite end with the lollipops. The pointer end, unless it moves over the black printing, is very hard to see. And the hour and minute hand are similarly hard to see at a quick glance, especially if you compare that to the Islander. And again, I don't have a Seiko SKX to show you live, but just looking at these two, first of all, yellow dial is really vibrant and I really enjoy it, especially for the summer. And the applied hour indices really give a bit of interest to the dial. And of course, the hands are very readable against that yellow background. So here's the loom shot I promised and a few images of the watch on my wrist out in real life. And as always, please put in the comments your thoughts on this. Again, it's a fairly inexpensive Homage coming out of China. $150 compared to $300, using the same movement, pretty much the same case. A little extras on the Islander given the screw links and the applied indices. But if you're looking for an SKX lookalike Homage, which would you pick? Would you go the extra for this? Or would you go with the inexpensive $150 plus, again, any duty, and I don't know what they charge for shipping for this watch. I know a lot of people who are not into Homage watches or even affordable watches. Although I don't specifically seek out Homage watches, you may have noticed that on this channel over the past few months, I've reviewed a few Homages. Except for the Pagani Tudor Homage, I don't buy Homage watches. I'm lucky to be able to borrow watches from other watch enthusiasts and a few brands, allowing me to try a watch for a few days and then pass along my thoughts to you. I do this without any remuneration or promotion from the brand or anywhere else. I hope you've enjoyed this review, and please let's continue the discussion in the comments below. Here is the video on my Pagani Tudor Homage and one on my Islander diver. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.